I have been wanting to talk about this particular Christmas special for quite some time, especially considering the fact that this is coming from a show I'm actually proud to call myself a fan of, and one that has gained a lot of acclaim, fame, and praise from not only my friends and family, but from a lot of people who are really into animation. I'm, of course, talking about Anatomy Park from Rick and Morty, which premiered on Adult Swim on December 16, 2013. Now, my experience with Rick and Morty has been kind of sporadic. Ever since I first heard about the show when I was in South Carolina celebrating Boxing Day alongside with some family friends, I managed to stumble upon a promo on Adult Swim, and I was quite intrigued with how the premise of this show sounded like. Mostly because the main characters of Rick and Morty are basically homages to the two main characters of Back to the Future. And the similarities between these two pairs of people is really accurate that it's almost quite frightening. However, in this version, Rick is Morty's grandfather. So I've been going around the internet and I've heard a lot of really great things about this show. A lot of my friends seem to say that Rick and Morty has a lot of wonderfully complex stories while being hilarious in a pretty cynical way, and it manages to have this type of enjoyability which can be quite accessible. So I decided to give Anatomy Park a little bit of a gander, and I was not disappointed in the slightest. Now, coming from someone who is merely a casual viewer of Rick and Morty, I have to say that this particular Christmas episode left me on the edge of my seat, and even though this was the third episode, it was surely a strong impression that this show has left on me. The episode starts off with Jerry preparing for the festive holidays until he sees his wife and two kids playing on their gadgets. That is until Rick comes in with a homeless man, and Jerry is just totally appalled at this strange turn of events. So it's up to Morty to find out what on earth is going on with Ruben, the homeless man. And as to be expected, we have an homage to the Fantastic Voyage. Now, I don't have anything against any cartoon episode who manages to use the Fantastic Voyage trope. It's just that it's been overdone, that it kind of cheapens the original source material. And believe me, I have never seen the Fantastic Voyage before, but it's safe to say that it manages to pull it off quite well, especially considering the fact that Morty encounters an amusement park which Rick built inside Ruben. And of course, a lot of crazy and dangerous things happen, especially when he not only encounters a whole set of diseases on the rampage, but also a ragtag group of scientists and researchers within his system who are also employees in Anatomy Park. And there's also one such employee in which Morty takes a liking to, and that's none other than Annie. Now, I definitely love the relationship between Morty and Annie. It's really sweet, and it definitely shows that they're both teenagers, and they're still in that awkward phase where both of them are not really too sure how they feel for each other, but I really do like how their relationship builds. It's really sweet, but without being too mushy. It's natural. The writers definitely knew how to not only write Morty's character, but also Annie's. And yes, even though what happens to Annie in the end is actually kind of sad, it actually makes me feel happy that at least Morty has found someone who manages to not only understand him, but he actually has this type of mutual relationship with this lovely and smart young girl. And they're also led by Professor Blumen, who is pretty much a humanoid white blood cell who is well-versed and absolutely well-researched. And of course, they even meet Poncho, the muscle of the group. And even though some of Professor Blumen's team members do get the axe somewhere earlier in this particular episode, I definitely have to say that the dynamics between Professor Blumen, his team, and Morty is very well handled. especially what happens to Poncho in the climax. It's then revealed that he is a traitor and basically wants to sabotage Ruben, and that pretty much left me on the edge of my seat. In fact, that's how I felt in this entire episode. Not only was this an homage to the Fantastic Voyage, much like a lot of other animated installments, but it's also an homage to Jurassic Park, given the name of the amusement park, Anatomy Park, Disneyland, which is also what the amusement park itself is an homage to, and many other facets which make Rick and Morty absolutely entertaining and absolutely enjoyable. I managed to have a lot of fun with this particular episode, and I was practically left on the edge of my seat, practically rooting for Morty and his newfound teammates to really make it out of there alive. And there is this tension which makes this particular episode just so worth watching. The way the writers were able to really build up the tension, build up that overall thrills and chills, and of course elate you is just so fascinating. On the B plot, we have Jerry's parents who also bring in the mother's new lover, Jacob. And of course, her husband doesn't really mind that Jacob seems to be making love to his wife. And of course, the B plot revolves around Jerry feeling very bitter of this new change. Then comes Ethan, Summer's boyfriend, who basically accuses her of ignoring him, when in fact, through Jacob's perspectiveness, he's able to find out that Ethan had such serious problems, not only with his anger, but let's just say that the reveal, even though it kind of came out of nowhere, will kind of make you feel rather bad for Ethan of what he had to go through. But between the A and B plot, I still have to give it to the A plot for being very exciting and for leaving me on the edge of my seat. I can kind of understand why the B plot needed to be there. It's to also flesh out some of the characteristics of the family members, and it's also meant to show them not only in a more human light, but also to show their quirks and what they are as people, which I found rather enjoyable as it manages to have that balance between slice of life comedy and an action adventure involving around someone who is in someone's anatomy. It's an absolutely enjoyable package from beginning to end, and I'm really happy that I managed to catch this particular Rick and Morty Christmas special. And I know that a lot of you caught this particular Christmas special when it aired, so please, I would love to know in the comment section below what were your favorite moments in this particular episode of Rick and Morty. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in later where I do a tribute to Family Guy's first Christmas special, a very special Family Guy freaking Christmas. So until then, happy holidays, everybody.